Bem-vindas, bienvenidos, welcome to the second edition of Brazil Immersive Fashion Week Talks, a place to meet the people and the brands shaping the future of fashion and culture. My name is BRA, and if you're here for the first time, I invite you to visit brifw.com, where you can find inspiring content about art, culture, fashion, and of course, technology, just like the one you're about to enjoy. Today, we will talk about the new fashion contents with Sara Maino from Vogue Italia, Norman Chan from Vogue Singapore, Atenea Morales de la Cruz from Vogue Mexico and Latin America, and Paula Merlo from Vogue Brazil. Hi, everyone. So first of all, I'd like to ask the four of you as editors, what does fashion, digital fashion mean to you, and how does it affect your work? So who would like to start? Sara?
Me? Okay. I was saying let's start with Norman since he's the only man in the chat.
Okay, no. So let's start with Norman.
No, I'm joking. You start, Norman. You go.
I mean, guys, thank you so much for having me. It's good to be part of Brazil Immersive Fashion Week. I mean, I am always fascinated with what technology can do to elevate the storytelling experience. So I think what I'm most excited about is the new protagonists, the new creators in this space. Like, we talk about the metaverse. I mean, that whole concept is so like mesmerizing and scary at the same time. And to me, like, there are so many questions to be asked. Like, in the real world, there's a hierarchy of brands. Like, you have your luxury brands like Vuitton, Gucci, Prada. But does that mean it's going to be the same hierarchy in the metaverse? Or is there going to be a new hierarchy because, for example, the Fabricant was the first digital fashion house. Are they going to be considered the Vuitton or the Hermeses of this digital world? And I'm just, the area is so new right now and it's so white hot with different creativity. I'm just excited to seeing who are the artists that emerge that have something to say, especially from a fashion lens. So I'm excited to see where this kind of develops.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Norman says. I mean, obviously, this is a huge new kind of, business in a way also, and way to see fashion, because obviously it has been kind of amplified during the lockdown, because if you have to consider before lockdown, I mean, nobody was using Zoom and now everyone is on Zoom. So there have been all these kind of sleeping new technologies that they were already on the market, but nobody really kind of used it, or nobody really knew how to use them, because just consider Instagram. I mean, for my personal side, I remember downloading Instagram, I think in 2011 or something. And for a year or so, I didn't even know what to do with it because I didn't know how it worked. So, and this happens mostly, I mean, not for so many applications, but it does happen, because you are curious at the moment, you downloaded it and then, or you forget, or you don't know how to use it, and then, people begin to talk about it. And about digital fashion, I mean, I'm a constant believer about, obviously, of evolution and of changes in the world. And I think we have to do that. But at the same time, I'm also someone that, and I don't think it's just linked to be old or new generation. It's about, I think, the belief of believing in content and physical things, because I do think that technology and digital is fundamental, because it's going to bring us on a way to be also more responsible and sustainable in a way, because you have to also consider that fact. I mean, now everyone is looking at the glamour fact of NFT and everything new and everything cool and glamorous, which is perfectly fine. But at the same time, then you have to think really the positive effect that can be on the industry or in the planet. So, but at the same time, I just believe that, I mean, we need to be physical. We need to encounter people. We need to exchange. We need to, me probably because we're Italians, we're very physical. But anyways, it's very important to exchange. And exchange is not just today about speaking by video, which is fun, which is exceptional, because I mean, I wouldn't have the chance to meet Norman, Paula, or Atenea, maybe not even in the next year, probably not because we don't want to, but because, missing of time. So this is fantastic. But at the same time, I think it's very important to continue to do what we were doing. And, digital and technology, it's a plus that we really need to use it in the best way.
Yeah, I really liked how Sara put it there. And I think we'll go there deeper within this conversation. But I also think, and for me, when we think about digital fashion, the thing that really excites me the most is the opportunities to create, opportunities to see things differently. I also think there is a lot of to consider when we think about the impact that also digital products bring, and that sometimes we forget about that. But yeah, I think it's such a nice way to look at things. And right now it's the way that we are doing it, and it's bringing us together and bringing the opportunity to connect with other people. But there is so many things that we also need to consider. So I mean, I think when you be asked how impact our work, I think is the way that we do it right now, but we also need to consider what sometimes is not on the table. And that's also part of the job here. So yeah, I think we'll go a little bit more on this with the next questions, but I think it's a good way to put it there.
And for me, it's all about, for me and my team, I think that it's all about getting us away from our comfort zone. Everything is so new and so new every day. We have to be on top of it and asking questions and being curious. So digital fashion for our work is always being away from our comfort zone. So when you got it, something new comes on and you're like, okay, I don't know anything about it, and I need to read and to talk to people. So I think that digital fashion sparks up our curiosity and takes us away from our comfort zone. So I think that for so long for us, we know we are authorities in fashion, but we need to keep it up to be authorities in digital fashion, which is very from what we have been doing in the past decades, century maybe. So Vogue will be 130 years next year, and we need to keep up with everything that's been changing in fashion. So I think that digital fashion is shaking me and my team up. And we see everything that what Vogue Italy is doing and what Vogue Singapore is doing and what Vogue Mexico and Latam has been doing. We are like, we need to step up our game and talk with our colleagues and see what they're doing and understand what we need to do to keep up and see ahead of us. So it's all about digital fashion is curiosity and stepping away from your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And how do you think, Paula, that social media and technology are changing the idea of how fashion, the idea of fashion communication and how fashion promotes itself?
We've never been more, we've never collaborated more with each other. So I think that when we're talking about social media and technology, is all about listening to new voices or listening to different voices and seeing different and new people. Is all about collaboration and seeing other people's perspectives on the things you thought you already knew about. So I think that what I believe in is technology and social media will change and is changing the way we communicate because we're more collaborative than ever. So Norman will talk a little bit about what he was saying to me and to us, the other editor-in-chiefs we just left a meeting, and how many people worked with him so that he could communicate the metaverse, Vogue Singapore's metaverse. It's so much collaboration and so many different perspectives. I think that's what's changed more when we talk about technology and social media and fashion.
You're right, Paula. I mean, like doing our September NFT issue, it was just so much about learning about what's happening in this space and understanding who are the people that are doing something interesting and how can we tie it back to Vogue. And but Pia, your question about how is communication different? Like Singapore is probably the smallest Vogue. I think we are in terms of size of a country. We have 5 million people here in Singapore. And obviously our print run is not that big given that we have a 5 million population. So for us, I always see social media and Instagram as our newsstand. Our newsstand is no longer on the street because during COVID, no one was let out, and it's all about the newsstand online. And I don't know about you guys, but when it's online, we started thinking about our covers differently. Obviously, we do digital covers and they can be moving, they can be interactive, but even just our print cover, we want to do color. It must be like eye contact, because what is going to make someone scroll and stop on your picture is always in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about our Instagram cover. What are your guys' thoughts? Has that changed the way you guys do your covers?
No, Norman, here we think just what you are saying. We understand that our newsstands it's Instagram, it's our Facebook page, it's our LinkedIn. So what we try to do is through our social media, engage in conversations. And when we say conversations is we listen and we talk back, or else it's just a monologue. So yes. I think so too. It's a great way to impact people and to bring on new readers, people who haven't seen a Vogue cover in newsstands for ages, because I don't know in your countries, but newsstands in Brazil are more and more rare. People are not going to newsstands to buy newspapers or magazines. They're basically going to newsstands, at least in Brazil, to buy cigarettes, to buy toys. I'm not kidding. They sell everything in our newsstands, but magazines and
magazines. Yeah, right.
And newspapers.
So it's the place where we can show what we're doing and engage new audiences and new readers. So social media is about conversation and converting people who are just seeing in readers.
And Sara and Atenea, how do you think the publishing industry, in your personal experience as editors, is adapting to create this original content in a context of so many and diverse and multiple communication channels,
I think, I think we have to, and that's something that we always do at Vogue Mexico and Latam. We always try to really, I think we don't forget about anything, we are putting a lot of efforts on digital communications, but we are also, trying to understand what are the readers looking at print, the content that is in print. I think now it's a little bit more special than it was before. And that's, the conversation that we have had at Vogue, that, now everything that we are putting in print, it has to be with a different feeling that it was before, because it's not something that probably you would want to read just in 1 month, but, that you can pick it up and then 2 months later, it's still, it's some time. So yeah, I think it's more about really understanding all the people, all the readers, all the generations that are interested in content and that are really consuming different types of information, not only through the website, but also different social media channels, and also different platforms, that it's not only, like print, digital, but it's also an event. There is also a conference, a webinar. So I think it's about really, getting from different angles. And I think that's something that we are just trying to, like Paula was saying before, keep up to that and just keep trying, just keep, figuring out that part of reaching readers and audiences through that content.
And Sara, what do you think about it?
Well, no, I kind of totally agree what we said until now. I think that fundamentally it's very important right now with all these, digital platforms and all these distractions that we have, because in the end there are a lot of distractions and then so much few content. Not because, it's about the quality and not the quantity. So I think fundamentally, in the end, it's the message you want to give, because Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all what we have. And then obviously it all changes depending on countries, because then if you go to Asia, you have, like in China, there's WeChat, that is a way of communicating, which in Europe, it's totally not used. And instead in China, if you're a brand and you want to come out in China, you have to be on WeChat. And then you have to really understand how WeChat works, because it's another world. So in the end, I think that you can fit in every kind of technology and social media, but if in the end you don't have a message and you don't have really a straightforward vision of what you want to really obtain from your consumers or from your reader, in the end, I mean, you can have all the digital platforms of the world, but it doesn't, it doesn't really mean so much as it should be. And in the end, that's why probably, I mean, I'm not saying it was easier before to do magazines, but it was a little bit more straightforward because, the content of communication was just one channel, which was the newsstands. And then a little bit, when internet came in, now it's a lot, as Paula was saying, I mean, which I didn't know about, but like she's saying, in Brazil, there's no more newsstands. But if you go in Italy, there are still newsstands. They're not newsstands, not because people are going digital, but because they're closing down because they're not working anymore. So, it's every country has, its different way of using the technology and the way of communication through magazines and editorial fields. But I do think that it's fundamental, the message. And right now, I mean, we perfectly know we all work in Condé Nast, we're having a major change in the whole company. And so this is always brings to a moment, obviously, of transition that you need to not wait, but, you have to adapt to the change. But I think it's very important not to lose, the focus on the vision and the message. And that's the most easiest thing you can really lose, whether you're big or small. So this, I think it's the most important.
And Norman, the September issue of Vogue Singapore was the first one dedicated to NFTs and Metaverse. How was the experience of creating that issue like?
It felt like we relaunched Vogue again. We had to rethink the whole process. I have the girls that have seen this already. I was just presenting it before, but this is the September issue, and it has a huge QR code, right? Because we were inviting our readers to scan it, and then you'd be directed to an online open air gallery where we have 2 virtual only covers. So that cover is not really the cover per se. It was a portal to 2 virtual only covers. And we did 15 NFTs. It was an interactive microsite where you were asked to explore the metaverse. And, as all the editors know, we started discussing about new beginnings 3-4 months before September. And it was just a consideration of what does new beginnings mean for Singapore? Because we're such a hub for innovation in Southeast Asia, and technology has always been a big part of what we do here. So that kind of brought up the question of, okay, so who, Vogue is a book of dreams. So who's dreaming up the digital reality? Who are these people? And then we did so much research and we came up with this 2 different teams that created 2 virtual covers. When you scan the print cover, I'll just refresh this page. The readers are directed to this microsite and it says, a new dawn for fashion, lies and technology, enter the metaverse. So then you see the print cover and then there's a short paragraph explaining this project and what it stands for. If you click on enter, you drop into this open air gallery. And we chose an open air gallery for 2 reasons. One, because we want to say that our Vogue covers are the same level. It should be considered artwork, number 1. And then number 2, open air, so we can see the sky and you can see the sun rise, because as you know, Anna, Edward, and Leslie wanted the global theme of new beginnings to be represented by a sunrise. So as the sun is continually rising in the background, you see different shadows and light being cast on this microsite. If you click onto the 2 covers, to Paula's point, it was just so much Zoom calls and chatting to people in the space. This was done by Chad Knight, who's an established NFT artist, and he creates these very surreal worlds. And he created this kind of elliptical sun rising over the moon. That was the whole idea with this gold statuette. The headpiece is done by a Singapore 3D design studio called Bay of Design. So we want to combine a digital artist with a Singapore element in every element. You can click to buy the issue, or you can click to buy the NFT cover. The second one was done by The Fabricant. This one comes with sound. And The Fabricant is, the world's first digital fashion house. They created this garment inspired by the kabaya dress from the 13th century in our part of the world. Worked with Singapore avatar creator to create an avatar. And then the sunrise was coming out of a 3rd chakra. So the idea of the sun rising out of fashion. And then there's just really quickly different clickable points. So there's 6 elements. There's a Roman pillar that leads to Vogue conversations where Megan McDowell from Vogue Business moderated a panel about what is the value of fashion NFTs with Amber from The Fabricant, Andy from Altava, which is a gaming company based in Korea and Singapore, and then Ben Tsai, who is from Way Financial. It's a company that just started an NFT investment fund. And then if you click on the candle leads to a story documenting the fact that Olivia from Balmain created a flame dress exclusively for us. And that flame dress was turned into an NFT in partnership with DressX and Altava. So you can wear this as an AR version for yourself to share on social media. And if you click on the vase, we also did design NFTs. So this was a design NFT with Singapore, an Italian studio, Lanza Vecchia, and Y. And you know, everyone was given the brief of create an NFT inspired by New Beginnings. So this is a vase inspired by like Chinese Ming vases, but it's made out of flowers. And the flowers bloom, and then they also wilt with every sunrise. And it's an eternal flowering vase. It's a vase that keeps flowering. And this is also available as an NFT. Just quickly with the needle and thread, if you click on that on your smartphone, it takes you to an Instagram filter. So you can click on the headdress and wear it as a headdress. I'm clicking on this on my desktop. So there's a QR code and we invite you to scan that with your smartphone so you can try on the headdress. We worked with a beauty and makeup artist to create beauty NFTs. So this is Dane Yoon's take on what is New Beginnings for her. So it's all about portals to new worlds, playing with trompe-l'oeil, and for her, peacock, cherry blossom, and again, the sunrise represented New Beginnings. And last but not least, we have a violin because part of the experience was we created another microsite called The Rhythm of Singapore, and we wanted to spotlight what the artist was saying about New Beginnings. So we worked with 48 different artists, from martial artists to ballet dancers, rappers, to classic musicians. This is one with a Sultari, he's a choreographer. He also does these kind of martial art dances shot at sunrise at one of our beaches here in Singapore. There are, you know, this is Muna, who is a local personality, and she did a piece on mental health and New Beginnings.
Just tell me, please. I come back to drown again.
So I won't play the whole thing. And basically everyone is given a brief to create 30 seconds, whether it's contemporary dance to song to opera singing, that represents new beginnings for them. And as I was sharing with the Vogue team earlier, I know you're not meant to have favorites, but my favorite one was, I mean, I love this one as well, but I loved what Miss Lu, who is like a singer-songwriter with a retro edge, she created a song, I'll play part of it, about how do we tell our children, how do we handle ourselves in the pandemic? Were we human and were we respectful?
What will we tell children if we do all we could? And if we love
So yeah, so that was our Rhythm of Singapore project. And, you know, it was such a huge project. And we were really excited with how it really went viral for us in Singapore. Forbes was covering it, the NFT community was talking about it, and we've done 2 NFT drops. So the first NFT drop was done beginning of this month in October, and then we have a second drop with the exclusive covers as well as the Eternal Flowering Vase that's dropping on OpenSea in November. And so far we have sold over $500,000 US of NFTs. So super interesting and super exciting. And yeah, I mean, that's what we did for September. Thank you for listening to me waffle on.
Oh my God.
Amazing, really amazing.
Congrats.
And I was thinking about, in terms of sustainability, and having Sara and Atenea, both sustainable advocates from Vogue, I was wondering, how do you think digital fashion can help the industry become a more sustainable one? Do you think it can make it happen?
Yes, I mean, I think at the end, I think digitalization can drive change and help us to look at things differently. However, I also believe that we haven't quite figured out the impact that digital products, digital fashion, digitalization has on the environment. And I think that's a conversation that it's going to be happening. It is happening right now, but it is happening more probably soon. I think when last year with COVID and the pandemic and, you know, the whole fashion industry shift to see and to create more digital products, we didn't really communicate and we didn't really see what's the impact of going only to the digital side. So I think we shouldn't be looking at digitalization as the only solution, because probably it isn't. And probably there are not unique solutions, but I think it's a really good way to help us to understand things in a different way. I think we have the responsibility and we'll have the challenge also to understand that part and really how we are not leaning too much on the digital side without not looking to the other side and just trying to balance out that part. But I think it's just part of a learning process. And I think right now technology and digitalization is a learning process for the fashion industry regarding the environmental impact that has on it. So I think the fashion industry sometimes forgets and sometimes fails to understand that part on time. And we are, and I think that's something that, you know, like media and fashion houses and, you know, the industry in general has the responsibility to look at it right now and not just to let it go for so long as it has been in the past. And I think that's, you know, like kind of a very, you know, like a vision that sometimes we just, we don't say it and we don't communicate it. But I think it's just part of the conversation when we talk about sustainability within the fashion industry. I don't know, what do you think, Sara?
Well, I mean, I go a little bit back to what I was saying before. I mean, I think obviously the digital fashion can really, you know, change a little bit the procedure of production and the way things are doing in the fashion system. Obviously, it's always about how you want to use these technologies, because obviously right now, and I think it's kind of normal at the beginning when there's something new, it's about excitement. So you want to use it in the fastest way, an immediate way of people, how they can, you know, perceive it. And one of these is like the NFT. I can tell you an example. When we launched our Vogue Talents platform in September, we launched our first capsule, Vogue Talents capsule collection. We involved 5 new generation of Italian designers. They designed an outfit for NFT. Obviously, it was just that outfit for that moment. It wasn't something that you would find somewhere else. They did 100 pieces. I mean, it was sold 100 pieces each, 100 euros each. So it was 500 pieces, 50,000 euros. The marketing called me and said, "We sold out." And I said, "What do you mean you sold out? You just went online." And it took half an hour to sold out everything. So I was completely like in shock, because first of all, who's going to buy it? In the end, it's 100 euros, which is not so much, but not so, I mean, not even nothing. I mean, but just think about, you know, Damien Hirst with his $millions NFT, or when Gucci did the sneaker. So, I mean, this is, I mean, the beauty of fashion, that everyone gets excited and there's an immediate response from the market, which is great, because that's the best way of how people can get to know things. But then in the end, I think you have to, you know, get the best of it. So the best of it is to try and think about, okay, this is fantastic technology, is wow, huge. I mean, what can we do now, you know, to use it to improve things? I mean, have fun, but in the same time improve. So that's always comes a little bit the most difficult part of it. But obviously, I do think that technology is one of those not solutions, because we're not going to be, I mean, sustainability 100% will not exist, not in our planet. I mean, probably I don't know, maybe in 400 years, but we're not going to be here to testimony. But right now, 100% sustainability, it's nothing that's never happened. So it's a way of thinking about saying how we can be more responsible and how we can do better things. So that's the way we have to think about it. So not saying I want to change the world and make it perfect, because it's not going to happen. I want to make it better, or try to improve what we, or what's right now doing wrong, and and doing a little bit more better. So I think obviously technology, I mean, if you have to think, I mean, if we didn't have technology, we would have been really, I mean, people thought they were in quarantine, but we weren't in quarantine. We were having our lives, but just in four walls, but we continue to have our lives. I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying it in a positive way, because obviously there's been people dying and there's been a whole tragedy in the world, but we managed to continue our lives in a different way because of what? Of technology that permitted us to continue, and who do a magazine, but then there are other people that didn't manage, because there were those physical things, which like shops, and that they didn't even care about technology because it was not in their in their system. So obviously technology has a great power. It's always about how to use it, because if you have to think about digital NFT, I mean, just consider the mass production of collections that are being done. I mean, let's stop saying we need to do less production, less, and more quality than quantity. I mean, okay, that are good words to say, but you think about using that technology, about thinking of, I'm doing a dress and I'm doing 3 or 4 tries, so I'm getting material, textiles, which I'm not going to use, then I'm putting the parts, and so you're kind of producing leftovers, which then becomes, if you're one company, think about the whole world. So think about technology in that way, that you are not going to need to do that try of dress, and you're going to do it digital. So I mean, so I think it has a great potential. It's just a matter of bringing into the circuit, I mean, just as we did everything until now. And it's good, the excitement, because I think the excitement then gives really the people and the readers the know-how of what's how powerful technology can be. But then there has to be the effective part of it. So I think it adds really a big change, and it's always the way we use it as social networks. I mean, if you have to think, I mean, it's kind of a controversial, I mean, magazines are in crisis because of social networks and of of social media, but at the same time they survive for social media. So it's like it's kind of a battlefield, but which is okay, which is fine. But we are in need of the only media that put us in crisis in the end. So I mean, so in a way you have to think of using it in the most smartest way.
And Sara, going back to the world of Vogue talents, what were the biggest challenges you found while creating it?
While creating it, well, I mean, we decided to do this. It was 12 years ago, so all of what we're talking now, it didn't matter even exist or think about it. I mean, it was really created because we thought that the new generation, and I always say it's our future, so we have to believe in the new generation. And I mean, there weren't really challenges. I mean, probably the big challenge, which now the industry kind of finally understood, is that at the beginning the fashion was a little bit more kind of snob, of thinking, oh, who you are, you're not known, where are you? It's not even about followers, because there was not Instagram, but who are you, where do you come from, which is your background. It was just about the name and your background, and if you have worked at least in those 5 brands which everyone knew. So that was the big challenge, was to understand that it wasn't about the name or the background. It was about the talent and the creative and the ideas that you were bringing in field. So that probably was the greatest challenge, because in 12 years ago, the fashion industry was not really looking at the new generation, just a few were. So I mean, the big challenge was that. And now after 12 years, seeing that there's so much attention to that, I mean, we're happy that this kind of maybe opened up a little bit the paths to these designers. But And now, I mean, the challenge, but in a positive way, is obviously how to use this whole digital, tools, which are fantastic, in the best way possible to give always that final message, which is the most important.
I'm just thinking about the new positions that are opening up in digital fashion, in the fashion industry because of digital fashion. Paula and Norman, how do you think the editorial content can keep up with these new positions?
My God, I have to hire people who have totally different skills from what I have. I am 39 years old. I'm not old, but I'm not as young. And what I keep seeing is that we have to bring in new people, a younger generation who will question absolutely everything. And they have different skills from mine. I'll learn from them. I'll teach, obviously, but I'll learn so much more than I'll teach. So I just read some days ago, a couple of good days ago, I think in Vogue Business, about how brands are already bringing in Metaverse chief content officers. And it's crazy to think about this, because I was taking a look also in some universities and some courses, and these courses don't exist. They don't exist in these universities. So people are just learning as long as they go. So I think that it's going to be very interesting. People will have to bring in to share their experiences with us and to learn as they go, as we go together. So it's about working together and bringing in new people.
I have to agree with that. I mean, Paula, you're right. I read that same story and it got me thinking, because, in the same way 10 years ago, there wasn't a social media manager, right? And now that's just as common. Everyone has a social media manager. Having metaverse editors is something that I'm really interested about, because like Facebook has announced that, or pretty much indicated they are no longer a social media company. They want to be a metaverse company, right? So what does that actually mean for everyone? And what does that mean for Vogue? And obviously Vogue is a reflection of our times. And we're talking to our team right now and planning out 2022, whether we should have a contributing metaverse editor, and that just has a page and they just talk about what's happening in the metaverse. Like these are things that I think we're going to see change the next year or two. And I think it's really interesting.
And Atenea and Paula, you're both from digital fashion developing in this area. Do you find any resistance or do you find any challenges here?
I think so. We're working closely with Olivia. She's the head of Brazilian Fashion Immersive Week. And we're not doing Is Vogue Singapore, who just plunged in this metaverse, or Vogue Italy that built this whole metaverse, but we're taking it very slowly here, but surely. So Olivia is going to be our invited editor for this this metaverse November issue, which is this one that we're trying to wrap up and send to print. And the question is, which Norman did really well and his team in Vogue Singapore is, which is very ironic, which is, how are we supposed to bring the metaverse when we have a print issue, when we're still printing? So how do we connect? How do we build this 360 experience? We're still printing paper, but we want to take you to this new metaverse and this new universe. So this is a very big challenge for us. I don't think people are against it, but people are trying still to understand what is metaverse. So Olivia, when we started talking, she was explaining to my team about the metaverse, which is really new and is still being built. We're building the metaverse every day, each day as we go. And in Brazil, I don't know, differently maybe from Singapore, I don't know, Italy, and maybe Mexico and Latin America are still what we're suffering still here, is that not so many people we don't have 5G yet in Brazil. So the internet is not as fast. Like most of Brazilians, they don't have fast internet, or they don't have internet or Wi-Fi at all. So we're still very slowly but surely understanding this new world, this technology world, when most of the people in Brazil don't even have access to that. So when we're talking about technology, is making everybody part of the conversation, but what about people who don't have Wi-Fi at all? So right now here in Brazil, like the challenges are, we're still talking about diversity and inclusion in Brazil. And we're talking about diversity and inclusion in a country that 54% of our country is built of Black people, and you don't see them everywhere. You don't see them, so many of them, of Black people working in the fashion industry. So we're still a step behind. So when we're talking about the metaverse, it seems like a whole universe ahead of you. It's happening already, but we're still talking about things we should have talked so many decades ago, and included so many of these conversations decades ago. So we're trying, I feel like we're running in so many directions, trying to figure everything out as we go, but we're doing our best. So with the metaverse, you're not going to see exactly what Singapore did, but you'll see what is our vision of the metaverse in November. But these are our challenges: how to talk about the metaverse and talk about technology when most of our country don't have access to it.
Paula, I'm so excited. I need to get my hand on your November issue. I would love to grab that off you. It'll be amazing.
Come on, yes, Norman. I have an email to send to you.
Okay.
Yeah, from my side, I also agree with Paula. I think it's, for me, and I always put it that way, it's a learning process. At Vogue Mexico Latam, we are also trying, like, you said it perfectly, like 360 content, and we are just learning how to do it. I think all this is also learning to really consume that type of content. And I think, yeah, we are a little bit behind in terms of high-end probably technology, but we are in the process of it. So I think for us, it's also really important just to really speak and really connect with our readers and how they are consuming information right now. So it's also about to really understand how we are doing things in Mexico and Latam, and really provide that conversation and that connection with our readers and consumers.
And to finish our conversation with some inspiring words, I would like to ask the four of you, what advice would you give someone who is willing to become a digital fashion designer or to work in digital fashion positions in an editorial environment? I don't know who would like to go first. Norman?
I think for me, it's always about it's about creating dreams and fantasy. So how can you do that with the digital space? I think there's so much right now happening in the digital space, and there's different levels of quality. You have some that's really interesting and you have some that is not. And I think detail creates emotion. And at the end of the day, as as we discussed here and Sara mentioned, we are still human beings. We still thrive to have human connection. And although we can do a Zoom call, that's great. But you can do a whole day of Zoom calls and you feel quite drained. But when you go out and you meet someone for a drink or a meal, you get the energy of them and you feel like energized and not drained. And I think, how can we communicate that human connection plus fantasy in a digital realm? And I think whoever can crack that will really have something going for them. I know that Iris van Erpen is working with Tim Richardson, the Australian filmmaker and photographer who does these really crazy shoots anyway, because she was saying that already Iris does really amazing fashion shows, right? Her work is ridiculously fantastical, but she's saying that there is obviously physical limitations with what you can do with a runway show. And she's working with Tim, and it's going to be revealed shortly. She's created a fashion show in the metaverse. I'm really excited about that, and just seeing how can she bridge that gap between fashion design, human connection, and dreams. I think those are the key elements.
I
For
think
me,
so
I'll
too.
go ahead. Go ahead, Paula.
What I'm excited to see is that how is technology going to work for us and not the way around? How will it serve us and not us serving technology? So I want to see the progress in service, seeing how technology will help us surf this new era for fashion. So I want to see technology working for us and not us as slaves of technology anymore. Let's see how it goes. That's somebody who is totally obsessed with Instagram and who's there 24/7.
Atenea?
Yeah, for me, it's, I mean, I think it's two things. First of all, like the basic one, it's about curiosity and really do not miss that part of the human process. And I think, technology, we are always having this dialogue about the human input. And I think that's such an important part of really, like our connectivity with technology. So it's about curiosity, do not miss that, and also about really thinking about the human side of everything. And I think that's such an important part, not only within the fashion industry, but within any other industry. And when we discussed what is ahead of us in terms of technology.
Sara?
Yeah, no, I think it's, I mean, all what we said, it's correct. And in fact, I mean, the important thing is that, we were always used to when, I mean, if I have to go back to fashion shows, or when you were seeing, or even an exhibition or a fashion show, a collection is about the emotions and the feelings you have. And obviously, I mean, through technology and all of that, it's always not so easy. So I think it's very, I mean, for someone who wants to do their digital collection or wants to go into this digital world, I mean, never forget about that. You have to give that emotion, and the emotion can be really given throughout many things. It's not just about using the best updated technology of it. It's, I mean, as I said, I'm a little bit repetitive on this, but I really believe it. It's about, the message you want to give, and it's about the words, and it's about, who do you want to reach? Because anyways, you cannot reach everyone. So even this about you cannot be liked by everyone, because each of us have a different way. But then when it's about the feelings and the visions and the emotions, I mean, this is something that touches us. Everyone touches. It can be positive, negative, or whatever. So I think you need to play on that, because it's very easy to lose it. I mean, we're already losing it a lot, because I mean, I can see it, people are, I mean, I see it on myself. I don't read so much as I used to read books, and through books, you could have really a lot of feelings, and you could, go into worlds and all of that. So I think that's the most important thing to really grab on about, the emotions you want to pass on.
Thank you all for your time and for this amazing discussion. And
thank
you all.
you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, and keep tuned for another amazing content at brifw.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Pia.
Thank you,
Hope to meet
everyone.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pia. Have a
Thank you.
good day.
Ciao. Thank
Bye.
you. Ciao, Pia. Bye-bye.